Here are hidden details you might not have noticed in episode 2 of the amazing digital circus. Pomni's room actually changed from what we've seen in the trailer for the season, and we can see that she has a new painting on the wall next to her bed, which was missing in the trailer. And since we could see Pomni's whole room, we also noticed that she has a pair of shoes and an extra hat in her room, which is weird considering that she can't change her hat because it's technically a part of her body, but maybe she can change her shoes if she wants to, but I'm assuming the same rule applies. Also, Bubbles' mouth isn't censored when he so-called curses. We can see that when he says something really inappropriate, it gets beeped out.
Sounds.
Bubble, you can't say that.
And with the other circus members, we could see that their mouths got censored. And it may be because Bubble's an NPC and that's why it works differently with them. But maybe we can assume that he didn't really say any curse words, but said something a little bit rude, and so Kane censored him. Zubal's appearance also changed from episode 1. Her left arm, her chest piece, her antenna, and even one of her legs changed from what we saw her wearing in episode 1. And we actually know that she's gonna change her body parts in each episode because she has an infinite Zubal box in her room, and this is something that we've already seen on the pin line. And while Zubal is gonna change in every episode, we also know at one point throughout the season the other circus members will also change their outfits, which might be the fast food adventure that we saw Jax in. Kane also started smoking after he sent the circus members away to their adventure, and we could see how he smokes Bubbles, which is pretty weird considering that Bubble is right next to him. But Bubble says that he's trying to quit smoking, which is even more weird because technically it's a digital world, so why would you need to quit? How would you be addicted to something in a digital world? Or maybe this is one of the things that doesn't change about the circus members' minds, but Bubble isn't even a circus member, so I'm gonna have to assume that this is a fourth wall break. Also, before the circus members entered the Candy Canyon Kingdom, there were signs in front of the gate saying danger, and we saw the chocolate fudge monster on them, and I didn't even realize this until re-watching the episode for like the third or fourth time. And this is because Princess Lululalu had to banish him from the kingdom because he was eating the residents of the kingdom. But how did they banish him? I have no idea. I don't see how they could do that unless they have some weapons that we haven't seen. In the crowd of mannequins, there are also two who are holding hands, and then there's another two who seem to be fighting, and actually one of the mannequins shakes the other's head off. And there's only one mannequin who we can actually hear speak in the episode, and that's the one who pushed over Gangle and broke her mask pretty early on. When Princess Lululalu steps in front of the circus members, we can see a butterfly flying around her, which could represent her kindness. Because despite how I initially thought that the princess could be evil, we saw in the episode that she really was just a regular NPC and didn't have too much depth to her character. And when we see the two other alligators with gummy goo, Max and Chad, with eggs and daggers in their hands, we can actually see that the alligator with the longer arms almost stabbed the shorter alligator, and he literally had to dodge out of the way. In this scene, at 6 minutes into the video, we can see Kinger picking his ear, which is pretty weird because he doesn't even have ears or a mouth. However, it's not that surprising of Kinger because he does act strangely sometimes, and we can even see Pomni noticing it, and she looks a bit weirded out. In the scene where Jax pressures Gangle to follow Gummy Goo's truck, we can see how everyone is shaken from the bumpy road except Jax, where his head just stays in place, showing that Jax sometimes can have chicken head physics. In this scene where Gummy Goo is crawling over his friend to look out the window, the other alligator places his head on Gummy Goo's back, showing that they're super close and that they've probably been friends for years. Here where we can see Ragatha with a knife in her head is actually not the first time that we saw Ragatha like this. In the Meet the Characters video, Ragatha also gets a knife in her head, so maybe this could be a recurring thing, unfortunately for Ragatha. In the space between the map, which is in between the Candy Canyon Kingdom and the developer's room, there's teapots just floating around, which I'm not sure what they're supposed to represent, but if you remember from episode 1, when in the intro there were objects floating around in a circle, one of them is those teapots, so this could have some deeper meaning and maybe we'll see more of these objects in upcoming episodes. We've also seen Pomni falling 2 times in the episode, but both times she fell on her face, so this could be a recurring detail that we'll see when Pomni falls. We can can also see how the fudge monster moves around in the chocolate lake, and Kevin Temmer, the lead animator of the show, confirmed that they animated the chocolate fudge monster by hand. So that way they could really work out his movements where it looks natural but also was probably really hard. When Kinger tried to hide Ragatha's hair, which Jack said looked like licorice, he simply just put a bucket over her head. And I mean, it's kind of him to look out for Ragatha, but Kinger just seems to act out of gut instinct, just like when he threw an anchor at Pomni trying to save her. So most of the times, Kinger is actually causing more harm than good, but it seems to be that he might have good intentions. The developer's room also has convex mirrors on its walls, which is pretty weird and could suggest that Kane put them there so he can use them, which would mean that he could have seen Pomni and Gummigoo down there if this was true, and maybe he just didn't care or wasn't paying attention. And it's also possible that these mirrors don't work that way, and in reality, when Kane was down there, he used the mirrors to make all of the mannequins which were down there. And not just the mannequins as in the actual mannequins, but the mannequins of the characters. In this scene where Pomni and Gummigoo get back to the others, we can see Ragatha running up to Pomni to check if she's okay. But in the background, if we look closely, we can see that after Kinger pulls the bucket off of his head, he has to place his eyes back on his body. And I didn't know Kinger's eyes can move like that. But based on how we saw in episode 1 that the little gloinks carried away his hands, I guess it makes sense that he can also get his eyes off of his body if he wants to, which is weird because they're floating, so he should be able to telepathically control them, which I don't know how that works, but we're gonna go with it. And here, when Pomni tells Ragatha that she wants to bring Gummigoo back to the circus, we can see the other two alligators in the background playing patty cake, and they even dance a little bit, which was also showed to us by Kevin Temmer, where he said that he basically was just messing around with the two alligators' movements, but it seems like they kept them in the episode, which is a nice little hidden detail. During the funeral scene when Gangle has her speech about Kaufmo, we can see that she has a drawing of the both of them, which means that the characters can spend their times drawing stuff if they want to. However, we can also see that despite Gangle said that he didn't laugh at Kaufmo's jokes,
I hope he's not still mad at me for not laughing at his jokes.
they still seem to be on good terms. In this scene where Pomni is falling down in the cellar, we can see that actually all the characters are reaching for her hand except for Jax, which could be because Jax was the only one that didn't attend Kaufmo's funeral, so it makes sense that Pomni didn't imagine his hand helping her, or this could have a deeper meaning that we'll see more of in the next episodes. Maybe Jax truly does become evil and then abstracts because of all the bad things that he does, which will then get him separated from all the other circus members almost like an outcast, and then he'll abstract. Here we can see how big this room actually is, and there are many toys inside the tent where the circus members could play if they wanted to. So maybe we'll see more about the inside of the tent as well as the grounds where the digital lake and the digital carnival is. So hopefully we'll get to discover those in the next episodes. But those are all the hidden details we could find in the second episode. Let me know down in the comments if you noticed any more. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video here.